Welcome to Ladies Who Lead podcast.
I am Dr. Lindsey Tavakolian. I'm a plastic surgeon and I practice in Dallas, Texas.
And I'm Mary Catherine Thampi. I am the founder and personal stylist of Mary Monarch. Our mission is to bring women together in a supportive network for help with business, entrepreneurship, relationships, and more.
You are listening to Ladies Who Lead podcast, where we will share real conversations with real women who inspire us.
Our guest today is lovingly referred to as Dr. E by her community. She is an emergency medicine physician and single mother of two. Listen to hear Dr. E share how she is working to create change for the next generation of female physicians through her advocacy work. We talk about important issues like unpaid maternity leave, lack of systemic support for physicians with families, and the pressure of managing self-provided health insurance. Dr. E also shares her personal story of mental health challenges within her home that left her as a single mom. She is a light in her community, and we hope you enjoy this conversation. You are listening to Ladies Who Lead podcast.
Well, my name's Nnenna. I think most people just call me Dr. E, because that's the easiest for my patients to remember. My last name is Ejesieme. I'm Nigerian. Born and raised in Dallas, been here all my life. I went into medicine because honestly, I was a science nerd. I think at one point I was going to be saving the whales. I was going to do vet. I remember telling my dad, I loved Free Willy, and that was my passion, and that was what I was going to do for a long time. And so, naturally, the courses, you go through the sciences, and I loved math, and it just fit. I was like, I really enjoyed it. Became a scribe, loved what I saw, and I was like, oh, this is something that comes naturally. I don't have to try as hard as I do in literature. Works for me. I went through med school, and during that time, I actually thought I was going to do, I think, OB, and then ortho was a thing for me for a little bit. But the thing that I learned was, when I got to the OR, by the time I got to clinic, a lot of the things that I saw as a scribe had already been done, and I wanted to treat everyone. If they had insurance or didn't have insurance, if they had a doctor or didn't have a doctor, I wanted to still see you and see if I could take care of you and see if I can help you in some altruistic way, something silly like that. And it fell on ER. I really enjoyed it. It was fast paced. I got to see everybody, and it was usually their first time with healthcare, their first experience. And it's one of those things for me. I was like, I hope your first experience is awesome. I want you to come back. I don't want you to be scared. I don't want you to be like, that doctor didn't listen to me. I really, really want you to feel safe. And so I was like, this is my jam. And so I fell into ER, went to residency, and then came out to practice where I grew up.
At what point during your medical career, medical training, did you start planning a family? Decide to get pregnant? How did you make that choice during your training or during your career? And what did it look like in those beginning phases of I think I want to have kids. I want to have kids. This is when I'm going to do it. And how did you embark on that? And what kind of support system did you have to support you during the time?
Okay, that was a good question. So I will be frank with you. I actually, for a long time, didn't want kids. Once I got out of med school and into residency, the lifestyle was I am not having kids in this. I have so much debt. I didn't get my hair done. I didn't get my nails done, my lashes. I look broke. I look homeless at this point, and I just want the opportunity to enjoy me, right?
Yes.
And so at that time, I met my significant other in college, and we were just friends. And then we reconnected down the line, and we were together, and it was kind of the same thing. It was we haven't even gotten to really do anything. I didn't have money to travel, so let's travel. And I knew when I met him that I wanted to have his babies. That was it. I was I don't know if I want babies, but if I had babies, I know I want them to be yours. There's no question in my mind. And it wasn't until I think a couple years out into practice that I truly was I think I'm actually ready to have kids. It's this weird place that I had gotten to where everything was kind of fitting. Before that, it was I already thought there's never going to be a perfect time. Something always is coming up. Something always is. And if I want kids, what does that look like for my career? Because at the time, I was senior quality director in San Antonio, working with Tenet Health and the Baptist system. I had my aspirations. I was I'm going to be chief quality officer, whether y'all like it or not. That is the plan I'm going for. And that was a trajectory. And how did kids look like in that? And the examples I had before me of women, to be frank, a lot of them were divorced or were having troubles connecting with their kids or hadn't seen them because it was just so tough. Medicine is really, really tough on families, I feel like. And so we had a discussion one day. I was like, I think I want to have babies. And I remember he was like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, I think I want to have kids. I mean, why not, And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And I remember we tried, and luckily we got pregnant the first Lord Jesus, we did. And wow. Yeah, I know, we were shocked. But it became a blessing afterwards. And what really kind of opened my eyes up was I didn't realize how important healthcare was for myself, because I hadn't really needed healthcare for myself. And I realized we didn't have any. Like, I was 1099. Most people don't know. ER doctors are contract workers. Some healthcare systems, typically people go in and they think most of the doctors are employed by the hospital. But actually, a lot of legality goes behind that, in which most of the time they contract out for conflict of interest reasons. But fast forward to now, a lot of those same restrictions that were there to keep the patient safe, I think they found a lot of loopholes around them, not in a sense of endangerment, but in a sense of it ended up coming to the same common goal in caring for the patient, that I think those restrictions aren't as important, to say the least. Knowing that most doctors, because they're 1099 or contractors or private practice, have to provide their own health insurance, okay? But it's weird because you are employed by the hospital as an employee. Like, they do your schedule. They give you your, where you're going to work, when you're going to work, who you're going to work with. That control is up to a lot of other sources other than you, but you're technically independent. So I'm sitting here like, wow, that seems weird. I don't have a 401k. I don't have a pension. I don't have maternity leave. I don't have dental. I don't have anything. I have to pay for all this now out of pocket. And now I'm pregnant. And that's considered a preconceived condition, or like it's a comorbidity. I was like, wait, why am I a comorbidity? This is not a comorbidity. This is like my child. So all of those things that I was blinded to, that I easily told patients, oh, you can just sign up here and just, when you get into insurance, you guys come on back and we're here. All of those things hit me in the face of how difficult it is. And I work in that sphere, the language, the calls, the waiting in line, like all of those things that I easily told someone else to do. I had to do it now. And I was so frustrated. I was like, this is crazy. So yeah, after that, I was like, okay, we got to do some things different, which at work was a big thing about maternity leave. At the time, I worked for a company that had great maternity leave. It was something they wanted to cut. I was like, we're not doing that. We talked about breastfeeding rooms for patients and doctors, work schedules. You should not be pregnant working nights. You really shouldn't be pregnant working overtime, especially because in women, healthcare or any kind of like stressful environment, they're already at risk for preeclampsia. They're already at risk for preterm labor. They're actually already at risk for deaths in their pregnancy. I'm African American, and I've already waited to have a baby. So not only am I older, technically they called me geriatric pregnancy. Nothing about me feels geriatric, so I'm gonna let them have it. But there's so many factors that are already in place, and I work in healthcare, and as my employer, I would expect the best from you to protect that, right? And it wasn't there yet. And it's not there still, but I think it's just because we haven't really talked about it, right? Like, we haven't talked about it.
Tell us a little more how you navigated your pregnancy with being a female physician, and what did that look like? And tell us a little bit about the transition of having a supportive partner into becoming a single mother.
We actually don't talk about this. So with my pregnancy, something changes about you, I think, as a mom, or even like my siblings, even watching my friends, they become very protective. Your village starts to show up, even when you don't know. It's an unintentional show up. Like some of the coworkers that are other mothers will be like, hey, have you drank water today? And you're like, no, thank you. Thank you for paying attention to me. And so unintentionally and intentionally, your village does start to show up. I am very fortunate. During the time when I was pregnant and had my son, COVID had just hit. It was one of the hardest times for me and my spouse at the time, because the pregnancy wasn't what I thought it would be. It was wonderful. Everything was fun. But I'm working frontline. And so a lot of the things we were seeing hadn't really been diagnosed yet. Like, we didn't know what COVID was. We just knew we were seeing people getting sick from like what we thought was, the flu at the time. But anyways, fast forward, I was like, man, I was staying after my shift a long time. And I had to learn, I was like, if I get pregnant again, I need to set boundaries. I need to say, I'm getting off work, or I cannot work, all weekend, all night. I need to go home. It's not safe. My legs are swelling, all this stuff. So it reminded me to set boundaries. And then afterwards, the difficult part was I had to come off maternity leave a little early because we needed help at that time. Setting boundaries, I don't think I would ever do that again. And so most physicians, and even my working status now, we don't technically have maternity leave. And it's not paid. I am the breadwinner for my family. And so if I decide to stop working, that is no income for however long that is for my entire family. And at that time, it's just me and my spouse. But if I want more kids, it really made me think, how would anyone ever do this? So what the setup is you work overtime to make up for that. And you bridge it through. So not only am I pregnant, I have to work overtime to make sure I have enough money to pay my bills for my kids. And I'm saying this, I am very fortunate with my job. I know I am blessed in that way. And so it brought to my mind, how do other people do this without any help? Like, how do we expect them to take care of themselves if they are the sole breadwinner or not the sole breadwinner, And so I had to work extra to cover that bridge. And if I got to a point during my hopefully 6 weeks, 9 weeks, 12 weeks, that I couldn't afford to do it anymore, I'd have to go back to work. In this case, we went back a little early just because of COVID. And I was at a company, luckily, that had paid maternity leave. That was not the case for the second pregnancy. I had nothing. So I was like, I'm already mentally prepared for this. I already know what I'm going to do. I worked overtime, 20 to 22 shifts, and made it all the way through. The other thing was during maternity leave, I'm having to pay for my own insurance, and I have to file it through disability and short-term disability. Now, if you're pregnant before you have that in place as a 1099, you don't get it because it's considered a pre-existing condition, which is, again, that's crazy. And so that whole idea, like I said, everything came to fruition for me as a first time, and learning it and having to make sure, okay, the next time I get pregnant, making sure all these things are in place. Spouse part. No one, I feel like, ever goes into these things as a couple to intentionally break up. Some people are single parents by a choice, but I wasn't. My spouse at the time got very sick. COVID hit him really hard. I'll just say mental health is a big thing. Mental illness is a real thing. And unfortunately and fortunately, it hit me in the face. I couldn't see it at first because you have a kid and you're working again and you're trying to navigate. I still want to be something in admin. I still have my own dreams. So I'm still navigating all of that. And I'm still trying to figure out my village because at the time, nobody wants to hang around someone who works with COVID every day. Like, no one does. Childcare, they were like, your kid, you do, what do you do? Yeah, I don't know if your child should come in. So like navigating that was like, we went through 3 nannies because they were just like, I can't believe you come home and how does that look like? And we found an amazing one. She was with us for 3.5 years. And I mean, she would take my breast milk for me. She would test it for me. She would do all this stuff because we were trying to figure it out. So we were very fortunate. But in all of that, I forgot to keep an eye on the person who helped me create this life. And he got really sick, like really, really sick. And then we got to a point where it wasn't cohesive. Like it couldn't be ignored. People saw it. They're like, what's going on? And I couldn't save that part. And so I think once that is broken, it takes a lot, especially if you're like a go-getter, to not feel like something's failed or to not feel like there's a grief, like a death, And so you go through those moments together and then you break. You start kind of feel like you're starting over. And so once that support wasn't there, I had to make a decision, made your decision, and you start leaning on people. And that is the most uncomfortable thing for me personally as a doctor, who you lead everything. I've led every part of my life. For me to have to lean on anyone else just felt awkward. It just felt kind of like I let someone down. And I realized, no, it's just that I do need help. It does take a village. And that village that was there when I was married or with my ex is still the same village. The only difference is that I need more of it.
So at this point in time, you've had 2 babies
and you've walked through COVID on the front lines as a physician, which I cannot say that I, know what it's like to be in your world as an ER physician, but I was taking call in the emergency room during that time. And so I have a window into what your daily life was from a consultant point of view. And that was not easy, especially doing shifts with like 2 masks on and a face shield and doing procedures in the emergency room and trying to handle and maneuver all of that. That was a really hard time on healthcare workers. So then obviously you're also trying to be a mom, and then you're grieving the loss of a spouse, a support system in your family. Like you no longer have your partner by your side. Take us from, you becoming a single mother. Tell us who your support system was. Like, did you lean on family? Did you have family close by? Was it, daycare structures? And then tell us a little bit about if there's any support systems for physician parents with children, and what kind of daycares are available or childcare or backup for when you're on call, and if there's any system in place to help support parent physicians.
So once I became a single mom, which was already like the biggest, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. I am grateful. I leaned on my family really hard. And that was the first for me because I'm the oldest. So I actually had to call my sisters, and they showed up. Oh my gosh, they showed up. They're like, oh, you need us? We knew you would one day. I think this was like their time to like come in. And so my sisters, my friends in the apartment, our close friends, I actually learned that I just needed to ask because they told me openly. They're like, women like you guys, women who are like successful, and you look like you can handle it. You look like you're doing great. You look like you don't need our help. And I did not know that. I'm like, oh, no, I need your help all the time. All the time. You can come over, take my kids, take them. Don't bring them back for a day. I don't care. And so I learned to call on them. I learned to ask them. I learned to be upfront with them. When it came to work now, that support system, I didn't feel as much. I realized like by myself, if he got sick, I couldn't go get him. So I had to lean on my nanny. And that's when I went ahead and switched to a live-in. A live-in can't drive. And then I have a backup nanny. But on top of that, by myself, again, I'm the breadwinner. So that means financially, I have to now pay for not just the help in-house, but the help out-of-house, the help that's backup. So for me, what worked best, like I said, was nanny. But for some people, they have a daycare plus a nanny, or they have a daycare, they have a part-time nanny and then like an au pair that they share. And the healthcare system, and my frustration with that is there isn't really a backup for you to be able to leave. I cannot just leave the ER if my son is sick, or if there's an accident on a field trip. I can't just leave. And I think my new challenge is to challenge companies who hire us to take care of us, especially your most vulnerable, which is pregnant and you're elderly. Like there has to be something that's there that changes, or at least building awareness that, hey, all the moms that are out there, especially in our field, typically we have a high divorce rate. There is a lot of us out there. And we do need to create, whether we're divorced or not divorced, whether we're the mom or the dad or the aunt who's like, actually, I am the only one available because they are out of town. I'm the one taking care of them. I actually have to go get them. We have to have some system there. I just don't know how that looks like because I've always worked in this environment. I don't know what it looks like to work somewhere that has those things.
So I heard you say you challenged the companies, with what's going on. What were those conversations like about?
To be frank, they weren't very good. I think they were very diplomatic. It was very much so, I hear you, end statement. And so now in my head, as a mental note, it was like, okay, I said these things, I wrote them, I learned to write them out, everything appropriately. But mentally, I was like, we are going to circle back to this and we are going to fix this. I just have a couple of things I need to deal with right now. I need to make sure the boys are okay, make sure my job's okay, because I need my job. And then we are going to circle back to this in a very productive manner, because that's what we do. Like, I feel like women are amazing. I'm like, I guess people say feminist. If you want to call it that, I just think women are amazing. I do. I think we're one of our species. We're freaking rock solid. We can carry everything. So for me, I was like, I want to make sure that this doesn't happen for the next generation. I don't want to normalize this anymore. And so I'm in ASAP. I do our stroke. I'm in our stroke committee for them. I do quality review. And so I was like, I want to learn to write a bill. I want to learn to write a resolution. I am more of a quiet person in a sense when it comes to work. I like working in the background because I like things to actually, I like to see like structural changes. So my love is quality. I do a lot of quality review, peer review, a lot of structure analysis, and putting things in protocols in place so that there's changes like long term or however much they put. Right now, I'm involved with the American College Association. I am in their EQUAL, which makes a lot of our quality initiatives. I'm on the stroke committee for that. I do it for Team Health as well. I do our stroke at Methodist in Charlton now, and our peer review for some of the Team Health. So it's really fun. I love it, enjoy it. It teaches me especially to different perspectives and practices. With that, it also teaches me what are priorities in the executive and C-suite. How do those conversations, if someone cares about something, how does that come up? How does that come about? And what I've learned is that we haven't really spoken up for ourselves for a long time. We are now. We have women in EM. We have women in medicine. We have physician surgeons coming together to create like an actual area we can safely start talking and create change. And I think just maternity is just a new part that I think is being hyper-focused, especially with Roe versus Wade. I just joined the women's group. I've been a part of it, but I think the conversations have now become more robust, trying to make sure, are we actually making effective change, not just for our patients, but also for ourselves? Are we creating a work environment where we can have kids and we can support a family? And what does that look like?
These are really difficult conversations because I think, as you touched on, the roadmap is not set for women. And maybe it is in some lines of work and in some countries, but this is an evolving process of people learning, because I think, you know, if you talk hundreds of years ago or centuries ago, or we came from a time where there was like communities where there was a hunter-gatherer, and then there was a woman who was like kind of ran everything. She commandeered the family. Things looked a little bit different. And I think as humans grow and societies grow, and we've built communities and we built cities and we built, you know, civilization, humans have to catch up with roles in society. And a long time ago, it wasn't that just women weren't educated, men weren't educated either. But I think what I see as one of the greatest challenges in society is that our cultures oftentimes have helped like the man along with the career part first. And so naturally our structure is structured to support that. But then we started realizing that women were also a very valuable part of the workplace and also could contribute in great ways outside of the home and in the home. And men are also important in the home too. And I think that's a little bit forgotten. So I think now there's this struggle to create this balance of, we need to support male parents. We also need to support female parents. We need to support them in pregnancy. Pregnancy can present challenges to, you know, the father too, really just the entire home. And then now we're in this place where women do need, I think, the special interest groups and the focus groups and advocates, because now we've got to catch our society up to figuring out how to create a socially like structured support system that's not even a question mark, but it always exists. And that's, you know, maternity leave or just pregnant woman support, also support for the father who's also having to contribute to that family structure during those times of need. I would love to just be positive about this, but I will tell you some of the most pervasive thing that I have witnessed in the hospital, and this is not a single instance, I would say this is the general attitude that I've witnessed in the hospital. When a male physician leaves work early or just makes a point of saying as they're leaving work, not necessarily early, but as they're concluding their day, and they leave and they say, I'm leaving and I'm going to my child's event or my child's game, everybody in the room applauds him. And everybody's like, that's so sweet. That's so cute. Look at him. He's such a great dad. when a female physician wraps up her day at work, most of the time we don't say anything about children. But if you were to say, I am leaving this operating room or this emergency room, and I am now going to do something foreign with my child, it is not met with the same glowing remarks from everybody around you. And that is something that has to change. That's a pervasive attitude. Men are praised as physicians for being dads and for any sacrifice that they have to make to be a dad. Women are criticized.
I was and have been told you can do it all, but not all at the same time. Or you've got to kind of pick, there's a different season for each one. And there is some truth to it. But I also think the reality is, are you creating an atmosphere where I can do it all? Because when I was in high school, you guys told me I could do it all. When I was in college, you told me I could do it all. But now that I have kids, there is a season. That's weird. That's different. What changed? All that changed was me having children. And what that would require is support. It would require a different kind of support. It would require empathy, right? Scheduling differences. It would require backup. It would require extra effort, not just from myself, but from you and my colleagues to raise and support any physician with a family, right? And I think in society, we are learning, I don't think it's, an ignorance of anyone, that America is an individualistic society. We really are. And it's been created by this mesh pot, right? With immigrants and people who are native to here, but the corporation and the corporatization of a lot of what we do has made it very much so like almost a man-eat-man world. You really got to think about yourself. And if you decide to make that decision, it honestly is your decision, when in reality, that is not functional. It's not. We are interconnected in every single way. Everything that you do has an effect on someone else. And for example, I was telling I had a trauma case. It was a really bad one. And all it had to do was that something had fallen off the truck of someone else, and it ended up hurting someone else. That only is to say, everything that you do, though it might not seem like it has any connection to anyone else and only your life, it has a bigger connection than you could imagine. And families, I feel like, are that way. Like, I don't know why we treat them as if you could go to work and only you have to deal with anything that has to do with your house or your kids or your dog or your pet or your family. That's odd. Like, I don't know. And we know that. So I agree with you. I don't understand where it comes from, but I do think we're at a place where we do need to change that. And we are. I think we're there. I think we're there. We're having those conversations. We're talking like this. We're in positions where we can.
So I know you have such a busy schedule trying to balance working, your boys, all the things. What are the things that help you find that balance in your life and keep you grounded?
I'm so glad you think I have it together. That's so cute. Thanks, dude. Yeah, I'm like, girl. It's my little boy would be like, girl. I'm doing it right. I do not have it together. I'm still learning. Like I said, I'm learning to set boundaries. I used to, like in residency, work out a ton. That was like my gateway. And then I learned I don't have as much time now to do it, but I want to get back to that. So I am currently still figuring it out, but I am learning how important it is to pour into myself as well, and enjoying my friends and family. So that is my leeway now. It's like working out, taking them to work out with me now that they can move their feet, and then doing things I like. I like getting my hair done. I like doing my lashes. I like getting pedicures. So doing the things that I used to do that I like, and scheduling out that time. Which sounds weird, to scheduling out your like make day, but that's what I call it. It's my day, so I'm gonna schedule it out on my planner. So the number of people it actually takes for me to take care of my kiddos, this is so bad. So I have Miss Vanessa, who was my live out nanny. She's still on standby. She helps me she comes by the house every weekend to make sure that I haven't forgotten toilet paper and that the kids have stuff for school, like the snacks and like, teacher appreciation. She does that. I have my live-in who helps just in case I get on call or not on call, or I get called in, or I'm late, which is a big thing. I'm always late. So she helps make sure they stay on the schedule and she feeds them. Then I have my sister who helps me drop off the big boy to any extracurriculars that I can't make because my schedule often falls over the time when they have soccer or martial arts. So they help pick and drop off. Then my brother helps on the weekends when I'm working on the weekends because the other nanny is off. and he'll take him to like boxing or his soccer game. And then I have the martial arts moms as my backup to help pick them up when if anyone else is working and I can't get off. Or if there's an emergency in the house overnight, I have my neighbor, both of them, on standby. She has the code to the door, and she knows how to call my family. So if anything happens, they both are aware. And I think that covers, and my baby sister, who you guys got to meet.
Yes.
Who's supposed to be helping me in the mornings when I need to go for a workout, because I decided to work out. So she's supposed to watch them and help the nanny in the morning, because 2 boys is a lot. Just started running again. I am going to start I love HIIT workouts. So that's my jam. So running. So that's my care team.
During my orientation for medical school, on the very first day, I don't even remember who it was. I mean, we're all deer in headlights. We're sitting there in this auditorium and we're like, it's our first day of medical school. Some woman got up and she gave a talk to all of us, and she said they might as well spray the halls with antidepressants because every single one of you is going to be on them by the time you're done with medical school. And I was absolutely determined, not that antidepressants are not a bad thing. Like, they're wonderful. If you should be on them, you should be on them. That's fantastic. But I was determined to try to pursue better mental health through physical activity. And I have to say, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, but I think that's the only way I made it through med school and residency, is because even though we don't really have a lot of time for ourselves, that 1 hour in the day that I guess I could have been sleeping or eating or doing something, I never gave that up. And I will say there's a lot of science and data behind this, but working out is equivalent to or better than, in some cases, if your brain chemistry is okay.
Yeah. Copy
Antidepressants. Yes, big one. But pursuing exercise and putting the right nutrition in your mouth, it's a lifesaver, honestly, especially as a physician. I think any working woman, any human being on the planet should pursue physical exercise, not just for how you're going to look or how you're going to fit into your clothes, but absolutely for your mental health, if nothing else. So tell me a little bit about the role of physical fitness exercise and how you've used it as an outlet throughout your entire academic journey. And then how did you handle that when you were pregnant? What role did it play in your life when you were going through your training and then now out as a single mom? How do you make that happen?
Absolutely agree. Snaps all around. I totally agree with you. Like, it was like the only place that I felt like I went, and it's mindless. Like, you're not thinking about it. If you are, some people, but it's a mindless activity where you don't have to really do much to do it. Or get into it, and it does improve your mental health. And so for me, I've always worked out. I ran track in college. I ran in med school. I kept running through residency. And you're right. Your time changes. Your time commitment and how you do things changes. But I remember that consistency helped. And when I got pregnant, I already knew my risks. I was older when I was having a baby. So I was 35 when I decided to have my first one. Okay. And when they hit me with the geriatric, I was like, I'm 35. Okay. I am geriatric pregnancy is when you are of advanced maternal age and have decided to have a children. It comes with its own risks that cannot be ignored, of course. But over the age of 35 is technically advanced maternal age. Our career, most women do put that off later and decide to have kids at a later age. And like I said, we were fortunate that we got pregnant on the first time, but I know a multitude of my friends who've had to go through IVF and IUI and how much it costs them, and eggs storage and retrieval and the emotional toll. So for all those people who had to go through that, kudos to you, because I can't imagine going through that and failing. That is just, I can't imagine. But going back to exercise, I knew that. So I kept exercising actually through the pregnancy. And I don't think exercise through pregnancy was normalized back in the day. I think it was more so like everyone had to rest. They were like, get off your feet, slow down. But what I realized is it actually made me have more energy. My weight gain was a little more controlled. My appetite was more controlled. So I kept that going. Postpartum, with everything that was going on, I will say it fell through the water, and I could feel it. I could feel the difference. And it took a while to get back. And just realizing the workouts are not going to look the same as they did when I was 27 years old. Oh, like I'm not 27. I don't want to be 27. I was broke, but it's a different. It's okay. But now it just looks different, and it might be with the kids. It might not be with the kids. It might be shorter, but it's more purposeful. But it still gives me that same mental relief.
Yes. So back on mental health, what are ways? I know you said working out. You prioritize mental health in your household and even for your boys.
I think their mental health comes with snacks.
Yeah,
like I think there's like there has to be a graph somewhere. The more chocolatey, I feel like, the more like general toddler satisfaction and like infancy. I think, but getting them outside. So I'm really big at no technology, and I'm not that one mom that's like zero zip, not a girl. They will be watching TV this morning until I get breakfast done. But I want them outside, and I want them riding bikes and roller skating because I grew up like that. Like I want you to learn to climb a tree, and I know you might fall as an ER doc. I know it might happen, but I want it. I want you to have that full-fledged outdoor experience because I think kids need play. For me, I learned that I need to take care of myself to be the best mom for them. And I had put that on the wayside because, like I said, my ex at this time was really sick. And I didn't know what that looked like. I know how to do it in the ER. If you come to me, I can tell you everything and anything under the sun. And I know how to direct you. I know what resources. But when you take like an inside look, when it's you or your family member, that is so different. And I had to learn. I had to ask for help. I was online. I was asking our psych coordinators at the hospital, like, hey, what are some things? And then once everything was done and everything got stable, one of my coworkers was like, hey, what are you doing for yourself? And I was like, what do you mean? Like vigorously typing our notes, what are you talking about? I'm doing everything, like picking up, dropping off, getting food. He was like, no, like for you, like, what are you doing for you? And it was such a sweet moment of kindness that I was like, oh, what do you see? And like when he was like, you should talk to someone. Everyone should talk to someone. He was like, because you're going, and I can see that. He was like, what are you doing for you? And so I actually went to a therapist and started therapy. And I'm not gonna lie, it's like hit or miss, but I love it because it's space to talk. I was like, oh my gosh, and word vomit, and it's someone who doesn't know me or my kids, and all they do is nod and tell me like, oh, okay, that sounds good. And they give me suggestions and remind me of me. And I'm like, okay, but what are you doing for you? Like, what are some things that make you happy outside of your kids, And they help kind of mentally for me to balance out me. And so that's something that I've done is like just working out again. I like my therapist. And then I am a work in progress with the nutrition. We'll get there. I haven't given up the fries with Parmesan or truffle. How do you guys feel like you have supported your peers or your family members in creating a village for them? Like, what have been your experiences watching someone start a family? And what are some things you've seen that you're like, that seems to be a trend. Why haven't we changed?
I'll first say it's definitely something that you don't know innately what to do, I don't think. And especially as a surgeon, I was a female surgeon alongside a lot of pregnant surgeons while in training and residency. And I'm sure if you ask them, they would probably have a lot more to say about it. I tried to be conscientious. And I would go into an OR where I knew I was like in charge of a team where I had a pregnant resident that was scrubbed into a case that was a really long case. And I'd walk in and I'd kick them out and tell them to leave and like, go drink water or, go take a bathroom break for the first time in 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 or 9 hours. So, when you can, I definitely didn't always have the capacity to do that, or our team wasn't big enough for us to be able to spare a person. But I think, in the medical world, it was more just like knowing who was pregnant and just always thinking like, when can I give them relief? When can I give them a break? Like, when can we plug somebody else in on the team or tell somebody else like, hey, go check on them. Go make them stop whatever they're doing, walk away, and drink some water. I'll tell you, this is not my story really to share. Being a female physician is really strenuous. And I was on a team during residency with two women who were both pregnant at the same time, and both were kind of high risk pregnancies. One of my good friends and colleagues had to carry her onto pee bucket with her all day at work and pee into it. And then she had to take it to the lab on our breaks that didn't exist so that they could test it. So then they could see if she was actively in preeclampsia to find out if she needed to be pulled out of work. And these women were still working 14, 15, 16, 17-hour days. And that's what it looks like to be a female physician. You know, it's not like, oh, you're super high risk for preeclampsia. Maybe like, let's peel back your hours. No, it's like, take your pee jug to work. So I don't know. I mean, I think one of the reasons why we wanted to have all these conversations is because I think the more we connect women with each other and the more women that know each other, the more we can create a network and a community of support. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of our vision of like, there's so many phenomenal women out there who are really amazing humans, but I think forming the community is hard.
And I want to piggyback on that. That is our vision. We just want to build that strong community because we need each other and it's important. And our lives are so crazy, so busy. And so we just are trying to find intentional time with each other to be like, okay, let's schedule this. Let's get to know them, connect them with them and just build that. It's so important because I know the community that I've been around has meant so much to me, you know, and meeting Lindsey and the community that we're starting to build, it has impacted my life in such a positive way. And so that's kind of our vision for it. And meeting you, oh my goodness, this has been amazing. So what are two things that needed to be changed in your work environment, especially, you know, being a single mom physician?
My biggest thing for employees that employ people, especially hospital-based employers, I need you to give them health insurance. I need it to be free. They have been there for you through COVID. They have lost family members and friends and loved ones and peers for you through HIV epidemic, through Ebola, through Black Lives Matter, through every tragedy. You can at least give them free health insurance, please. And then the second one is paid maternity leave. I think they have to take a break. They have to have time off to have the actual child. So like they can't have it at the hospital with you. So they have to leave. So at least compensate them for it. And I think knowing they are providing the health care to most people as access to care, the least you can do is replicate that and reflect that back. So that would be my ask of them, you know.
Okay, so I know this is hard to do, but what is one thing that you would like to share with other women who maybe are going through something similar or just really anything in life that you just want to pass along?
One thing that I think I would love other women to know is you are not alone. I will hype you up. We will hype each other up. I challenge everyone, if your circle looks the same, make it a little different. Reach out to someone, say, hey, you look beautiful. I've never seen you here before. What's your name? Because we can do that ourselves. That is something small that I think can change so much. And not everyone will receive it. So what? It's like, so what? You didn't know him before? Move on. But allowing that access to yourself, I think will create this big network. But you are not alone, and don't be afraid. I'm not afraid. And if you ever see me, you can definitely walk up and say hi. I'm usually out eating by myself because I love good food and they like chicken nuggets. I'm tired. I don't want no chicken nugget. I don't want a hamburger. So if you see me and I see you, I will hype you up because I think we're just incredible people.
You have been listening to Ladies Who Lead podcast, hosted by Dr. Lindsey Tavakolian and Mary Catherine Thampi. Please rate and review this podcast wherever you are listening. You can stay connected with us between episodes by following us on Instagram at Ladies Who Lead Podcast, where we share exclusive content and updates on future episodes. Until next time, we thank you for listening.